Are you looking for a special gift for your loved ones? Let's use your wood turning talent and skills to make unique custom gifts for your family and friends. Custom seam rollers are fantastic gifts for the sewing lovers in your life, especially if they are quilters. Every time they use the seam roller, they will think of you, so let's get started. Welcome to Turning Stitches, I'm Sean. We help wood turners learn the craft to begin making fun projects faster. I am terrible at giving gifts. Normally, I wait until the last minute, then end up picking up something that is pretty forgettable. Hopefully you are not like me, but if you are, this video series may help you out. Let's take your wood turning skills and talent to create handmade, personal gifts that your family and friends will cherish for years to come. Let's continue this series with a seam roller. These are great gifts for the sewing lovers in your life, especially if they are quilters. There is a variety of materials we can use, including wood, acrylics, and other materials, so colors and textures seem endless too. Flexibility gives us the ability to customize our seam roller for the person we're giving them to. And of course, if you're an enterprising wood turner, any project that makes a good gift will be a good seller. There are lots of steps to cover, so let's get started. We are including links in the description for seam roller kits, tools, and supplies that we are using today so you can quickly find these items for your research. Many of the links are affiliate links, which will not cost you more if you make a purchase, but we will earn a small commission. For this seam roller, I'm using a scrap of Jatoba or Brazilian cherry that I had laying around here in the shop. I'm also going to be using this seam roller kit from Penn State Industries. I've already cut down the blank so that it's just a little bit longer than our pin tubes, are roughly 3 3/8 inches. So using my scroll chuck with my pin jaws, we're going to drill a 7mm hole all the way through the blank. Our next step, now that we've got the hole drilled, is just to glue our brass tube into the blank. I always like to scuff them up just a little bit. Helps the glue stick, I think. I'm just going to use a little bit of CA glue to glue the brass tube into our blank. I like to use this little insertion tool. Makes it a little less messy. Kind of rotate that around there and get the glue all the way around. All right, so we'll let that dry and we'll be back in a moment. With the tubes glued in and the glue dry, we've got our blank mounted back in our pin jaws where we're going to use our barrel trimmer to face off this edge and trim our blank down to the end of our brass tube. We're going to do that on both ends. With the ends of our blank faced off and trimmed down to our brass tubes, it's time to get everything assembled on our pin mandrel, which is how we're going to hold everything on the lathe today. When I'm working on projects like this, I do like to buy the corresponding bushing packs. It just makes sizing the parts much faster and easier, and it helps hold everything together here on the mandrel. So in this instance, I'm using the larger diameter, so this will be where the roller ends up. So that's the larger diameter of my blank when we're turning it. With that in place, we're going to put our blank on. Then I'm going to put the smaller bushing on here. This is where our cap will be. And then we've got a washer that goes on the mandrel, and then just kind of a knurled nut that kind of holds everything together and just kind of squeezes things together to hold it tight for turning. Once we've got that, we're just going to put this here in the headstock. We'll bring up our tailstock. And I'm using this kind of more blunt live center today, which all I want to do here is hold this end. I really don't want to put a lot of pressure against the headstock. I'm really just holding this end of the pin mandrel with the live center. All right, we're finally ready to start turning. We're just going to start out today with our spindle roughing gouge to get these sharp corners off, and then we'll switch over to our detailed spindle gouge, which will give us our shape and get everything refined. With this project kit, the manufacturer does recommend using a slightly larger blank size. A lot of pin blanks will be about 3/4 of an inch square, and they do recommend starting out with 7/8 to 1 inch square. So we did have a larger blank that we're starting with. So now we've got our spindle gouge out, and so we're going to work down, find our bushing, find those critical points on both ends, and then we're going to add just a little shape detail. Here I'm just starting with 150 grit. I've got the lathe running about 325 RPMs or so. If you're getting value out of this video so far, hit the like button. And don't forget to subscribe so you can come back and review this project later if you need to. It's also important when we're using wood here, especially if you're using acrylic, you may not need to do this, but sanding here with the grain does help remove some of the radial marks. Alright, so we're just wrapping up here with 1000 grit. I washed this down with denatured alcohol before I used the 1000 grit, just to kind of get rid of some of the dust and the grain and stuff. We'll get this kind of sanded by hand here real quick, and then we will be ready to start applying finish. We're going to finish our seam roller today with my favorite finish for this type of project, which is CA glue. So we're going to apply 3 to 5 coats. This is a thin CA. We're going to use a paper towel to help us. So we're just going to put this on, kind of wipe it in with the paper towel. We want to make sure with our paper towel we kind of rotate it so that the drying glue doesn't end up scratching our surface. So we're just going to apply a few coats here. Rotate the towel. And then we're going to hit it with accelerator, which will dry it really quickly, and it'll allow us to build these coats relatively fast. What I like about this CA glue finish is it's fast, it's durable, we can bring it up to a nice high gloss finish, and it just works out. Now it's time to polish. So we've let our handle dry, even though we're using accelerator as we were applying the CA glue. So now all we have to do is buff this up to a high shine. We're going to use these micro mesh pads today to accomplish that. We're going to wet sand with them. We've also got the RPMs on the lathe kicked way up to 2000 RPMs. So let's start working through our grits and get this polished up. I just want to rub the pad. I don't really want to apply much pressure, really no pressure at all. All we're doing here is kind of polishing the surface. The wet sanding creates a little bit of a slurry, so I've got a paper towel here. We'll just kind of dry that off, wipe off the slurry in between each coat, in between each grit. We started out with the green, about 500 or 600 grit. Now we're going to go to this kind of orange salmon color.
we're just going to work right through our grits. Same process, a little bit of water, not much pressure.
Most of the time when I'm using CA glue as a finish like this, I end up gluing the bushings and the workpiece together. Here I'm just taking my utility knife and kind of scoring around the edge, which should allow me to get the bushing off of the workpiece without cracking my finish. I prefer using my lathe as a press to assemble the seam roller parts. My scroll chuck with pin jaws is mounted to the lathe, and I have a block with holes drilled in each end, one for the tip of a pin and one for the cap. With this project, we'll only be using the end drilled for the cap. We'll start the assembly process by taking this little barrel nut and putting it into the end of the handle. This does have a reduced end on it, and we're going to put that smaller diameter end into our blank. So we have our handle pressed up against our pin block. We've got the nut aligned, and we're just going to take our live center and drive it very, very carefully into the handle. I do use a rather blunt live center with this operation just to keep from flaring open the parts as we're using the tailstock as a press. Now we've got the handle flipped around end to end, and we're pressing the cap in place. Here we're just using our live center with the cap kind of seated into that pin blank or that pin block there toward the headstock. With our parts pressed in place, the next thing we need to do is attach the roller bracket with the bracket screw by threading it into the bracket nut. We'll tighten the screw with a screwdriver. Now we just need to slide the roller into the bracket and align the holes. Last, we'll run the access bolt through the bracket and the roller and screw the access screw in to hold it in place. We'll tighten it with a screwdriver as well. With all the parts assembled, your unique custom gift for the sewing lover in your life is finished. Make sure you subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you'll know when the next gift idea video comes out.